All right, everybody. And I'm going to say it because we're back, but we're back. But like, I can't not say it. We are joined today, Miss Erin and I, by Cola Kitty and Waffles, who my son just gave a squeaky toy to when I explicitly said, please get a bone for. And that went south because we are merging into middle school humor in the Dawson household. And that's a fun learning curve. So, hi, Erin. How are you?
Oh, I have a new computer, so
Yeah.
Mercury is in retrograde, everyone. So just watch out for your electronics, communication. I'm pretty sure, I am 99% positive that the 2.5 years ago when I got my computer that's now broken, Mercury was also in retrograde. So it's fine. We're
making it.
We're making it. Yeah. It's pretty. I don't really care about electronic things. So like I'm not like excited. I'm not one of those people that like gets excited about a new computer. Like I just want one that works, but got a new one.
No. I feel like every time we record, we say all of these things happened in the background behind in order for us to get an episode out. But like literally every single episode is like chaos, 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 multiple planning appointments, and then eventually we get together. But yeah, this is real life.
Yeah. And I'm on the new, for those of you that are on my medication journey with me, we're Vyvanse and Prozac now. So we'll see how that goes. But the Vyvanse has been really helping me get stuff done. So that's been good.
I love that we each have our own little journeys. And y'all, we love it when people are like, so we heard about this and how's this? Because I mean, we're a team and it's been a journey. So
yeah. I also, no, it's been interesting. We love this safe space that we've cultivated here.
Y'all have potty trained children with us. We're now again entering middle school humor. Waffles. I think the last time that we went to record an intro, Waffles took a poo at the very last 2 seconds of the recording. She is still not potty trained completely, but we've learned to sit. So yay for 5.5-month-old puppies. We're no longer peeing in the house. It's just, Friday morning after breakfast, Bear had, I made taquitos for breakfast on Friday. They love taquitos for breakfast. Bear dropped a taquito, and that was immediately followed by Waffles inhaling it and then having explosive diarrhea everywhere. So like that was.
Yep.
Christian gave up and Christian bought a hand vac, like a really nice little hand carpet cleaner. So now we own multiple carpet cleaners.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, how's Charleston? Anything exciting going on in Charleston?
Charleston is good. Life is good. For those of you that live in Charleston or know people that live in Charleston, I'll announce it on Instagram soon, but I'm taking on a couple private clients. So if anybody wants floor time, feeding therapy, somebody's looking for a therapist that does things a little different, I am your girl. I'm also taking on some virtual clients for like consultation, stuff like that. Michelle and I always say, like, we're the therapist you need when like you've unfortunately had other therapy or like you really need somebody to problem solve when like nobody else can figure it out. So I'm excited to like start to kind of do a little bit of my own thing. So that's terrifying and exciting. Owning a business is hard.
Okay. So last night, Asha had their webinar up on updates from the One Big Bastard of a Bill that came out. And Asha did a beautiful job troubleshooting from beginning to end how this is going to impact our profession. I mean, they did a really good job on this. And then broke down like a rough timeline at the end on like when it's going to impact.
Yeah.
Waffles was also in attendance. Her and I did a walk through the subdivision because I had to move my body to regulate because of my anxiety about this. And as a business owner, I was thinking about you and Renee because they were talking about how they've updated their why am I brain farting? When you have like scaled scores, so instead of like paying full price, if you need like a partially reduced price,
Yes, like a scaled rate.
yes, 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 yes. But they've updated them with the passage of the bill, and anyways, there was a ton of resources available. So for everybody that's listening, that's also private practice owner, like Erin and our girlfriend Renee Garrett, then I would highly recommend taking a peek at those resources. I'm trying to think.
Well, and I will also say on that note, because, you know, we've done some episodes recently and we've talked about like had hard conversations and talked about ASHA. And I've had a conversation with somebody recently about like the ASHA convention, and like I have a presentation that's going to be there, and like talking about like people that said they weren't going to go and then going and presenting, and kind of this like, how do we hold space for so many things at once? And Michelle and I have always said like, we like support, like we are ASHA. And so
Yes.
we can sit
Yes.
with, I'm holding ASHA accountable for these things that I don't agree with. And I also still understand that ASHA does a lot of things for us. And we can also, if you want to make change, like you have to be someone to do that. And it was Unlearn With Me, Jackie Rodriguez, who literally said and posted on her Instagram, she was like, if you are upset with what ASHA is doing, you have to remember a lot of people that are a part of ASHA want them to do those things. And if you're wondering who voted for certain things, look around you, because I've seen things on Facebook forums and I've been really upset by things that other speech pathologists have said. So just, you can hold multiple truths at the same time.
Yes.
And we can be upset with things that ASHA is doing, but we can also say, I am a part of ASHA and there are things that they are doing to try and support us, even if we're not seeing it. And so we also have to speak up.
Yes.
And have those conversations. And so that's just something I know Michelle and I feel very strongly about, because some people will say like, well, you said this, like, how can you still support them? Or how can you do this, this, and this? And it's like, I can see things very nuanced, and we can hold space for multiple truths to be true at the same time, essentially.
Yes. The webinar that was up last night will be available on, that's my finger, will be available on the ASHA stream. So if you go to ASHA and check out ASHA streams, it's under category / research and practice. So that subcategory, and they're putting the links up. Also on the list of, and what Erin and I are talking about exclusively is the DEIA rollback and some of the rollback feedback that they have proposed. That's what got us really hot and bothered, as well as it did multiple people. And Faye, we are forever indebted to you for pulling together that panel. That was great. But yesterday they announced that the Medicare blockage to prevent CFs from practicing or like billing, they reversed order on. And they did talk about that last night at the end of the webinar, because that wasn't the purpose of the webinar, but like they brought it up because so many people asked. Yeah, it's big news. And they said it was because of membership participation, membership advocacy. So y'all, we have a voice. Use your voice, which is like the perfect segue to the topic for the night of using one's voice. Yeah. So the topic for tonight is AAC. Basically, ow, that was me. Sorry. Oh God, you guys, Waffles is still a puppy. So it's all about kind of how do we get started with AAC? And this is near and dear to Erin and I's heart, because while we do PFD, so many of the patients that we see, as she said earlier.
Well, this is what I will say about AAC. I went into speech pathology because of AAC. I worked at the Children's Institute of Pittsburgh. I volunteered there. There were multiple disability classrooms, autism classrooms, and 90% of the kids there had communication devices. And I fell in love with this little boy who I sat with at lunch, who would ask for garlic powder with his device. I would watch kids like ask each other to prom with their communication. It was beautiful. I saw eye gaze. Like I was exposed to everything there. And I think like where I struggle sometimes is like Michelle and I don't feel that AAC is a specialization.
No,
Like
it should be a continuum of our regular sessions.
so when we, pediatric feeding disorder, for sure a specialization because I completely understand speech pathologists that like don't feel comfortable with feeding. That's not their thing. Like I medically, whatever. Waffles agrees. But from an AAC standpoint, I have always struggled because to me, like I think people forget that Michelle and I also have so much education and training in AAC because for us, this is just like a normal core thing that everybody should be doing. And so I'm so grateful for the people that are like really focusing on putting education out on AAC. But at the same time, we don't have to do it perfectly. And you can learn with the child you're working with. And where this episode also stemmed from, like most things do when we get frustrated, is this narrative that is forming that AAC evaluations are need to be in specific settings or specific locations or with specific people.
Yes.
And that is not true. And today we're going to also talk about the resources you have to be able to do that on your own and regardless of what setting you're in.
Okay. So I'm coming off of 2 years of living in the valley, which is a valley complete with snow, and our neighbor has a bear that's been scratching on his back window. So like we're fine. It's fine. Waffles is still present. My children have not been eaten. But here in the valley, there's very few therapists, if any, that actually do AAC evals. So actually one of the few therapists that actually did do AAC evals just took the job with Toby Dynavox, which I'm like elated for because we needed a good rep. But I'm also heartbroken because she was covering Harrisonburg up to Winchester and I was kind of covering the South End, and now we don't have anybody, right? So the narrative that's been emerging is that, and what we've seen is that individuals, children, are going to a local hospital, one hospital, and based off of one eval alone, they're getting a device. And I got to be honest, I have seen so much device abandonment, and these families are coming to me for weekly therapy sessions, and they're coming with this device that they received based off of one eval. And maybe they've had one therapy session. Now, my heart to that therapist, my heart to that setting, because I can't fathom having all of that pressure that you have this one shot and that's it. But what if we collectively, all of us, decided that's not a great approach for some of our neurodivergent friends and said, how about we all do this? So here's some starting point suggestions. And I'll use the practice that I work at now. So I work at Albemarle Therapy Center over in Waynesboro, and I freaking love this clinic. They've got a couple locations. God, I'm so happy. But what I've done is I've reached out to our 3 vendors for our state. So our Talk to Me Technologies vendor, our PRC Saltillo, I always say it wrong, vendor, and
Saltillo,
and our Toby vendor, Saltillo. Okay. Those are the 3 primary vendors. We also have eye gaze that comes out, but that's like such a niche area. I haven't reached out to them yet. And I have lined them up to do an in-service for our 40 therapists, 1 a month for the next 3 months, to address biases towards companies and products, right? So these individuals are coming out over the course one Friday for 3 hours to talk about their products. And I mean like the actual physical devices. What's the benefit of this device? What's the mounting of this device? Then the language programs on those devices. And then to talk about their funding. How do you obtain a clinic trial? How do you obtain an individual trial? And which insurances are you in network with? What is the process? What all do you do behind the scenes? What's the follow through for training for caregivers? Beginning to end processes. That's what these individuals are coming out for. And it's free. Y'all, these companies will come out and do this intensive training for free. And that to me is a great starting point. Now, nobody's getting paid for the trainings. Actually, we're buying food and I'm baking. But like, if you need somewhere to start, find your local rep and schedule. Like, we had a Zoom meeting on yesterday, Tuesday. I did a Zoom call with Hannah and Trish, like these two SLPs that I work with. And Jane from Talk to Me Technologies walked us through Grid because I couldn't figure out how to make it not jump. But it was jumping when I was trying to like work on the programming, and it was driving me crazy and connecting different grids that I didn't want it to grid. But they did that small one-on-one, and they have the ability to do these big trainings. But you guys, that's all of these services are available to level us up. Yeah. Okay. That was really passionate, but I've been like booking these for the last 2 weeks.
Well, and you also have your, like, most states have an assistive technology office that are usually connected with the university. So like you can go in there and you can get trial devices, like the one in South Carolina Michelle worked with when she was down here. You can ask questions to them. There's obviously like coursework you can take. And I mean, I know that like, speech therapy PD has a ton of great AAC courses that like you could take to fuel your knowledge and grow. But I also think we have to remember that like AAC is also, you learn with your clients. And the issue that I have, even with the idea like AAC evaluation, I don't believe in like one evaluation for AAC, even if like you're the therapist that's seeing them. Like I remember, I totally understand wanting to have that like day where you decide, but I remember where I was, places I worked before, like certain therapists had competencies for AAC, but only certain therapists had competencies for AAC evaluation. And so the child would be working with one therapist and then go to a completely different therapist for an AAC evaluation.
Why?
They don't know the child. They don't know that they were the ones that I think were comfortable writing the reports. But like you can walk, as Michelle and I would say, find a mentor that like has done this. But the child would go in, they wouldn't know that therapist. They already are likely having some differences with their communication because they're trying to get an AAC device.
Yes.
And then they don't know the parent. I remember I would have kids and they like wouldn't perform well in the evaluation. And I'm like, why can't you just base it off of what I've seen? It doesn't, like, I'm telling you this. And so, I understand why organizations maybe have done that because therapists don't feel comfortable. And I know there's so many things that we have to feel comfortable with, but AAC and communication are a right. And it is not okay to say to a kid that you're treating, like, I don't really know this app or I don't really know this thing. Like you can learn with them and they can teach you and you can look at the device and you can ask questions and you can talk to the rep. I know very often, like, if I'm working with a family and I'm like, I kind of want an app that does this and this because of the things I know about the child, I'll like have them come in, like they will come in for free and they will be there with you, the child and the family, and talk about what apps they have, what works for them. Because I also think therapists get really stuck in the apps that they know, and they get really stuck in the companies they like working with. And that is
Our
not
biases.
fair to the child.
Yes.
Yes. Like you have to know all of your options. And I also try to go into an evaluation, not with the like, I want to try this app with you, but what do I know about this child? And as a floor time therapist, that's individual differences. Like those are, what do I know about their visual system? What do I know about their, like how they process language? What do I know about the caregiver? What do I know about,
fine motor, gross motor,
like their
access
fine motor,
points.
all of those things. And I think those are the things you should write down, all about their individual differences, and then look at the apps and the options that you have and what is supportive of that. Like we know cortical vision impairment, right? Like we know things to do for cortical vision impairment. But what about a kid who is very attracted to visual, like sensory input, and has trouble engaging? Maybe I want AVAs because that can, like when you push it, it like zooms out and back in. Very simple. Like AVAs is maybe not an app I would pick for a lot of kids, but like I know this about this kid, so let me try it because of this. I want you to give me information, what you know about that child and why you're trying this thing. And also work with an OT if you can. I know a lot of OTs aren't comfortable with AAC, and like I think if you just start to work with them and you explain it, like they'll be more comfortable. How many buttons are too much for them from a visual standpoint? What's the best way for them to access this if they're like what's the term when you like
Breaking grasp as opposed
breaking,
to
yeah, like all of those questions, because if you don't look at all of those things, you're at risk of the child not using the app because you didn't take the time to pick the thing that worked best for them.
oh, okay. So I have a case study where I am girl crushing on this OT that I work with now, whose name is Taylor, who actually knows Murney Mern. And they were like friends from South Carolina and like kindred spirits. And Taylor and I worked together, like briefly overlapped at JMU and both left for similar reasons. And then,
Okay.
so it's been neat to see how like the good Lord's woven our paths together, but whatever. But her and I are sharing one particular tiny human together. And she sees this child, like has worked with this child in the school setting. So what's really, really cool is that she comes with that additional like learn lived experience as an OT and being able to troubleshoot with her and the caregiver on vocabulary selection for the child, on site specific language, site specific needs. Like we're working with, we spent probably 10 minutes working on just an uncomfortable reasons why we could be uncomfortable, because it's not I feel sick, it's I'm mad, I'm sad. Sometimes you're just uncomfortable, but what language do we want to make sure that this tiny human has to convey that, right? Well, caregiver can talk about what home looks like. I can have insight into what the clinic looks like, but where does that child spend the bulk of their day? That insider knowledge on size, space, smells, it's so empowering. So I use that as an example because y'all, maybe you don't have an OT at your clinic, but maybe the child sees an OT at school and you're in the private practice. Please get a consent to release form, because that information is important when you're doing a trial to prep for the eval, because it's an opportunity to offer communicative intent and purposes. And insurance companies want to know what purposes, what communicative intents did they use this for? Not just yes, no, not just I want, but are they conveying internal state? Are they commentating? Are they asking questions? And that information, being able to collaborate with a colleague in a different setting, is so invaluable. Um,
Mm-hmm.
This kid's flying through this trial, and the data that we collected, like I have the honor of writing the report, and I'm looking at all the data that was collected from all the different settings, and I'm just like, they have to approve this. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not giving them a choice.
Yeah. And I will say, like, I also had kids that I worked with that went through like like AAC evaluation trials and were told they weren't ready for a communication device, which like there's no prerequisites for a communication device. And my response to that was like, you guys didn't find the right thing. Like, or, you know, and I will say, as a floor timer, my tune has shifted a little bit with AAC because I used to say, especially high tech AAC in general, like we're specifically more so talking today, like high tech speech generating devices. I used to be someone that was like, I always have to have it in the, you know, every kid's ready. I always have to bring it in. But like, if we're not at a point of like engagement with someone else and really even like we're here together, like it's going to be really hard to model on a device. So like, I will say I have moments where I'm like, I get what, like why someone hasn't like fully brought it in yet, but I'm going to try to bring it in regardless.
Yeah.
But I think that you have to like, if something's not working, especially if a child does have that engagement and they are like intentionally like communicating with you in gestures and facial expressions, all things, like what else could we try? Or like, what are we not doing? Or what else do I need to problem solve that like might work for this child? Specifically, I was working with a boy who had Rubinstein-Taybi syndrome, CP, like a lot of diagnoses, was like 8 or 9 and no communication device, super engaged, like loved shows. And so I was talking to mom and she was like, yeah, they said he wasn't ready. And I was like, I don't, okay. Sure. And she was fantastic. And I was like, well, what did they have on his device? And it was a lot of like, go, stop, more, whatever. I go, did they didn't have shows on there? She was like, no. I go, they didn't have like the things he likes on there. Like, he's been communicating for 9 years and you're going to make him communicate the things he's already communicating on his device. Like, he's got that. How about telling, you know, mom, you know, how about picking which show he wants to watch? How about like we put on the scripts, like the like little pieces from his favorite shows, things like that. And then like it actually felt like his device. But the thing I will also say, like I see a lot on social media of like, do this if your kid's a Gestalt English processor on their AAC, or do this, you know, it used to be all core words. And now it's like, well, we also have to put phrases and this and this and that. What if we just thought about the child? Like, hey, for example, this child gets really dysregulated, and likely when they get really dysregulated, it's hard for them to go to the device and go to multiple words, because like that's hard for a lot of kids. Hey, let's make a page right there in the front where they can easily say, I need a hug, or I need to jump, or something like that, and have the phrase there for when they're more dysregulated. Or, hey, this kid really likes this show, let's put this on there. I do
Yes.
love that like people are having this conversation, but I also think it's not as hard as we think it is. Like, you don't have to have the answer already. And this has been my gripe with everything in our field. Like, if you know me, you know I'm not a here's 5 strategies or here's this and this. Like, think about the child and what they need and what the caregiver needs. And likely you will be able to take those things and find the right app for them. I know it's hard and I know it's challenging. And I know that like when you're starting out, especially, like it can be super overwhelming, but make it less overwhelming by saying like, this is what I know about this child. This is what the parent has told me about the child. This is what they like. This is how they communicate with me. This is what I know about their fine motor. And with that information, also, if you bring that to the rep, they likely will have recommendations and suggestions for you of what to do. So take what you know as a speech pathologist and just a therapist, collect that information, and then use your resources and filter that through somebody with a lens of AAC. And you
Expertise.
likely, yes.
Yeah. So to piggyback on what you have said, this is the approach that I have found that works for the little ones that I have been called to serve is you need me as a therapist. I'm going to step 1, ensure that our clinic has a generic clinic trial device. So I personally, we have a second one from Talk to Me Technologies coming in. We're in the queue for Toby and PRC Saltillo, right? And yes, one person in the clinic needs to be the designated person for this. But if you do home health, if you're a solo practitioner, you are your clinic, right? So you always have this accessible. I mean, I can't tell you many times I had a trial device in my trunk and I would run into a patient's house and be like, oh, I'm going to need this. Let me go back up to my trunk. And then this is the one thing I brought in. And we tried it. And we immediately filled out an application for that individual patient to get their trial device. Okay. So step one, you and or your clinic has a trial device. Step two, you do a language eval for the new patient. This is not the episode to talk about the language evals, right? That's not today. So we do our language eval, get your prior authorization, get your plan of care. They come back for therapy, and then you bring in your clinic trial. And then during therapy, you model on it. And maybe they don't love it. Maybe they're going to the mid-tech or the low-tech communication tool that you also have readily available in your space, or you have brought to leave with the caregivers. But keep modeling it. And what's really cool is, as Erin says, as you make that partnership with that tiny human and with their caregivers, and y'all hone in on like, this really could work. What's neat about these clinic trials is that they're not stuck on one program. So you can try in therapy, you might try LAMP for 1 or 2 sessions and realize that's it. Or I'm not feeling this one, let's try Grid. Or maybe we switch to Touch Chat. Or I don't love TD Snap, that's my bias, but I have a lot of kids that have TD Snap from a school device. But and it's a designated school device. It's not a like their own personal device, just for clarification. But what's cool is if you have that clinic trial device, you have an opportunity to test the waters for all of these different language programs. And once you feel comfortable, each individual AAC company has their own intake process for you to request a trial device for that child. Now, some companies, you have to say, this is the trial device that I want, like the actual tablet and the specific program. Other ones will have the actual physical device, like the tablet, but they come with a couple of different programs so that you can continue to do different trials over the course of that designated 4 to 6 weeks, right? This gives you an opportunity. For some of my friends that have utilized this approach, it's given me the opportunity to have 3 months worth of data, so that I have 3 months worth of data. And when I go to say, hey, we're ready to write the report, we're ready to go through, I can look back and see in good consciousness, how do you say that word? Good consciousness? I said it right?
So.
Yeah. Oh,
Sure.
it's been a long day. We even had to do more stuff to get the boys finished register for school today, so my brain's fried. But I can look back on 3 months worth of data and say, this is it. Because trust me when I tell you, it's going to get harder to get insurance to approve these devices because of the passage of that lovely thing that happened in July. And I can't continue to cuss about it. And we're going to choose joy. So I haven't figured out what I actually want to call it yet. But like, yeah.
Yeah.
But has been my approach to therapy. And it's worked out really well, because what I have found is that the little ones that we take the time to do weeks and months of practice with, there's less device abandonment on the other side. So much so that one little girl, her mom came to me last week, and I've been working with this kid for 12 months now. She She watched her mom one time put her code in, and like she remembered her code. She went through and in the lower right hand corner on every single page, regardless of what the topic is, she put the word pink just because she wants you to know her favorite word is pink. I think that's like amazing because when you're, kindergarten, first grader, what do you want the world to know? Like, my favorite color is pink is an important fact about you as a human. So, like, oh, that makes me really happy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
What was I going to say? No, and I think because yeah, things have shifted. Like we used to think that you have to have core words for everything, and then we learned that like fringe vocabulary is so
Yes.
important because it's so individualized and personal to the child. And so, but that's also where we get ourselves in trouble when we just like follow rules and like protocols as opposed to just like looking at that child.
I do. It's
Yeah,
hard. I remember wanting to follow the protocol because it made it easy and it made it feel safe. And it
right.
was scary stepping out to change from like, but this is how I was taught it in school. You do the communication matrix, you pick this, and this is what you do.
Yeah.
But what you were describing, having the floor time approach and really having to meet the family and like learn the child and focus on that relationship and their profile, it's a next level in clinical skills.
Right. Right. And so I think it can be scary, but both scary and empowering for new clinicians because it's like nobody has all the answers. And take the time to just like play around with the device. And like I'll just bring the clinic device out sometimes in sessions with kids and just like open up an app and like see what they think about it and like see, model some things on there, see if I feel like it's too much visually based on like how they're engaging with it. Like, do they like look at it and then, there's so much. And you also have to read their cues and you have to know the child really well because like, and I talk all the time about cue reading and like how we're kind of, what was that?
I don't know if you guys could hear that. We've been training Waffles to use
Oh,
mid-10
the button.
AAC devices. So we have all these buttons around the house, and one of them says, "Let me outside." And so she just went over to it and pushed it to get my husband to take her outside. And she also has a daddy button because we call my husband daddy. Like I've always, yeah. And so she said, "Daddy, let me outside." Yeah. Might be an SLP dog when.
Love it.
It's really embarrassing. We're really nerdy. We also have one that says night night that she's learning. She thinks means potty. So we got to work on that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, I encourage you to just like play around with the devices and like, because there are so many times where I'm like with a kid with a device with an app and I'm like, oh, where is that again? Or like, where should I put this? Or like, I don't know every single app and I don't know how to edit every single app. And I like ask questions and I reach out to the rep and I ask someone that I work with. So there's so many things to think about. I think that when you're looking at like an AAC evaluation or you're thinking about the things that you should know or like the components of it, like, yes, you have your language evaluation, which like gets you insurance. Like, I'm going to be honest, I don't love it really. There's not a language eval. I like the communication matrix, but like, other than that, there's not one that I'm like, oh yeah, this gives me more information than like I know by observing this child. You want that. You want information from the caregiver. Like we also have to think about the caregiver when it comes to communication device. Like, do they feel comfortable editing it? Do they know how to use it? Like, do they, how do we help support them? Because I can model this device in my session an hour a week, but if that caregiver doesn't feel comfortable, and a lot of times they're nervous about it, so like they may be telling you that they're comfortable or they may be saying like, no, this is fine, but making sure to say like, we have time, you don't have to tell me you like this, like I can, if this is too challenging for you to edit, then we can find something different, because I don't want you to feel like this is stressful for you. I want you to feel comfortable with it. I want to know that if they take the password and change it to Japanese, that like you at least know how to maybe get back to where it was. Because kids do that, especially a lot of our autistic kids that like probably speak multiple languages or understand multiple languages because of the YouTube videos that they watch. Like, what is important to the caregiver too? Like, communication is attachment. And so sometimes like some of the things that we work on that child communicating to is like to help them better understand each other. And oftentimes kids use their devices less at home also, which is something to
Yes.
think about. Like I remember vividly, I had a little girl, she maybe was like 7, that came in with Rett syndrome. And I work a ton with Rett syndrome because I worked at the Rett syndrome clinic. It's like very near and dear to my heart. Michelle's too. And she had been working with a specialist, like a Rett syndrome AAC specialist, right? And like amazing, and nothing against the therapist. But they did things a very specific way for Rett syndrome for most of the girls that they worked with. But it wasn't working for this girl. And mom came in and was, I think, frustrated in general that like what was supposed to work for her with this person that knew all the things wasn't working. And I remember her saying to me too, she was like, I just want her to say, I love you. And I said to her, I was like, I totally understand that. And I can't imagine like not hearing those words. I go, but I do want you to know, every time I see her feel a little uncomfortable or like you say something, she reaches back and touches your leg. And I want you to know that's her telling you that she loves you. But I also also totally recognize that. And so mom, I think, felt uncomfortable being like, this isn't working. Like, this must be our fault because this person had this protocol that was supposed to work for every girl. And like, it just didn't. And so making sure you're really having those conversations with parents and you're really understanding where they are and you're really eventually getting buy-in from them too, which might take time. Like, you might be ready for that kid to get their device and they're doing great in your session, but if caregiver hasn't bought in yet, that's also really important. If that makes sense. Like, I think that's a missing piece of the evaluation as well. Like, where is the caregiver with this? Not just like
Yes.
what works for the kid.
Yes. So I pulse in my language eval. I pulse. Let rephrase that, Michelle. I explain very truthfully during my language eval, this is the therapeutic approach that I would like to take. And if you're on board with that, then these are the goals that I'm going to write. And I lay the framework from day one if I think we need AAC. If we don't, then I'm not the therapist for you. And that's okay because I don't have to be the therapist, right? Like, there are so many other therapists out there. But I write all of my goals for total communication. And if we're on, like, you want me and it's very clear we need AAC, I also include a caregiver coaching goal for programming so that the caregiver will program however many phrases on a trial device so that they feel comfortable with it. And I've gotten in the habit of explaining to the caregivers, I see a new patient every 30 minutes. I would say at any given point in time, anywhere from 25 to 50% of the individuals on my caseload at minimum, sometimes it's been almost my entire caseload, has supplemental or aided communication in some way, right? I do not have the capacity to remember every single child's individual code, like to like go in and make edits. And I don't have every single child's device completely memorized by seeing them once a week for 30 minutes. I'm good, but I am not that good, nor should I have to be. The caregiver has to know their child's device. The caregiver is the one that is going to be in the moment and say, oh, wait, we should add this vocab in, because they're the caregiver. So when I'm going through my trials, I make sure that the caregiver gets one-on-one time with whatever respective company that we're running the trial through, and that they do the one-on-one training. And that's free. You guys, that's free. But for me, that's like part of my trial. And you can also add that in the report that the caregiver participated, because this adds support to your evaluation when you actually get to the point of doing the evaluation, that there's caregiver buy-in because they're doing the training. The caregivers know how to do the programming. And it's, I did not start out here. Oh my Lanta, how Carol Page a million years ago met me and gave me the words, start where you want to end. And that became my like AAC, like anthem. Like, you know, I'm beating a drum, but like, yeah, I miss her. But this is, okay, so to actually go to the report before I go down 14 different rabbit holes, say you have your language eval, you've made your pitch, we want to pull AAC in. You've had your clinic trial, you've got your clinic trial, the caregiver's on board with the clinic trial. You submit the paperwork for a long-term trial for the child. They have a successful long-term trial and you're ready to move to the report. Y'all, hint, if they aren't successful on that long-term trial, you can try a different company. You can come back and do it again. There's opportunities for plan B, but we're just going to continue with plan A for the sake of time because, you know, Erin has to go teach class tonight and we have to call Chad and say we recorded. But you get to the point where the trial is successful and you're moving forward with writing the report. So at this point, there's a couple of different things that have to trigger. Behind the scenes, you need to communicate with your representative of whichever company that you're going with. And some of them have digital platforms, some of them do emails. I don't know which company. Y'all talk with them. Did you hear Stephen Neese has joined Forbes AAC down in South Carolina? I am excited. He's going to come on and talk about Forbes because that was a new one. He does a phenomenal job of coaching through report writing. That's what made me think of him. Stephen, hi, we love you. Congratulations on the baby boy. Also to your wife who did the heavy lifting there. But you notify them, that AAC rep, that you are good to go. And I always ask for, can you send me a template? Okay, here's what's lovely. Different insurance companies require different things in an AAC report. And I guarantee you that whatever EMR system you currently use, it will not represent what the corresponding insurance company wants. So if you request a template, they give you sample verbiage. You have to customize it. You have to add in your data. But that template serves as a great backbone, especially when you are new to this. Now, from a billing perspective, some insurances will require that you do a formal AAC evaluation. Not all insurances, but some insurances. And if they're requiring a formal AAC evaluation, they will require a prescription to be on record for AAC. So now you have to have a prescription for language eval and treat speech therapy, and you have to have a prescription for AAC eval and treat. Okay. I can't tell you which insurance in which state is going to require.
But most companies will know that. Like most AAC companies will know that. Yeah.
And they have specific AAC, or they have specific insurance, like reviewers or like analysts to like filter that down. But you need to make sure that you have that plan in place with your private practice, wherever you're working, so that they have that on file before you write your report. Okay. So get that secondary script and then write your report with that template. behind the scenes, the insurance company, or not the insurance company, the trial company will reach out to the pediatrician's office and they get a letter of medical necessity and they secure a script specifically for the device. You don't have to do that. They handle that. You work on the report, fill it out. That serves as your AAC evaluation, and then you send your report to the to the AAC company, and they'll review it and give you feedback. They have a licensed CCC-SLP review it. So the feedback that you're getting isn't don't view it as like a red pen, you failed. View it as hey, I do this all day long and I am subject matter expert and I'm here to lift you up. Let them guide you.
Or Erin, you forgot this section. Or Wyatt, bless his sweet soul.
I miss Wyatt.
It looks great, but you missed this page. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, wait, he has 2 kids now.
Yeah, and I think one on the way.
Oh my God. I remember him when they were like dating. That makes me feel really old. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. God, yeah, well, and I think like the thing with us is we're kind of we're not a fake it. I don't like the fake it till you make it. Like we know what we're doing, but we're a very we're gonna ask the questions and do it. So that's how we navigate a lot of this. Like I even remember when I was at the hospital and there were some kids that were inpatient or at dialysis clinic that were needing a device, and one of my coworkers wasn't super comfortable with AAC, and she was like, well, how do you do any of this? And I was like, well, I can show you, but also you just ask the rep. I didn't have all the answers. I just knew who to ask, and I knew my experience, and then I knew, I also am willing to to not everything's black and white. I had one kid, for example, that was inpatient, and I didn't realize you can't get a device covered if a child's inpatient because
what?
It's lumped in with their whole hospital stay. So the insurance is different. So you can't get it approved while they're inpatient, at least in maybe a long-term is different, or maybe a different facility, but inpatient at the Children's Hospital could not get covered by insurance. So we had to wait until he was discharged, but I also was leaving the hospital. So I was I've been working with this child. He was doing so amazing. So I reached out to the rep and I said, hey, here's my report for whenever they discharge, the speech that, I'll have this written. You can have it on file for whenever that time comes, whatever. Very ethical. I had all the, I was the therapist. I wrote it as a therapist. I sent it looped in the other therapist, did all the right things. But sometimes you have to do stuff like that to get things for the patient and to advocate for them. You have to be willing to think a little bit outside the box in that way. And I think that can be tricky for some people.
Yeah, because this goes back to how is a curriculum set? I remember there was a conversation at a board meeting a while ago, and curriculum at respective universities for participants present came up, and they were talking about how they had AAC, where it fell in the sequence of courses.
Yeah.
And one of the individuals said, oh yeah, it's an autism and AAC class. And they asked me to come down and speak. And actually I had both kids with me because I picked them up from my mom's house. And so I had both kids with me, and I brought in a ton of trial devices and did an in-service to this class. But it was a class specifically on autism, and it was combined autism and AAC. And the faculty member was like, this is how I inherited it. We're trying to separate it out into 2 different classes. But again, the curriculum had been set by a former chair who thought those 2 things dovetailed beautifully together. But in situations like that, it leaves the notion that if you have autism, you have to have AAC, but then it also What about your
Really complex kids that need AAC? Yeah.
yes, and your adults with ALS that need AAC? If your AAC class was integrated in, and I'm not like poking fun at like one curriculum, I'm just saying these are very large conversations about potential pitfalls in our academic and clinical experiences, excuse me, that set the foundation for your career.
Yeah.
So we recognize in this moment, I mean, hell's bells, I didn't have a grad class on AAC because my undergraduate class was like a 3 credit class as opposed to like a 1 or 2 credit class. So they
Yeah.
allowed me to carry like a credit towards grad school because I'm old
Mhm.
and you could do that then. But that means I had one
Yeah.
class and everything else was teach me, sponge me, mentor me later on, which I
Mhm.
continue to do. I mean, goodness gracious, I set these courses up for our team and I'm like geeking out because I'm like, I want to learn from this person. Like Jessica's brilliant. I want her to come show me and teach me. Waffles is also excited about Jessica coming.
Well, and I mean, I had 2 students this semester who were great. This was the end of their first year, and they hadn't had AAC yet. And so, like, when I had a kid with AAC, I'm like, just play around with it, just model it for, just like, because also it um, what word am I looking for? Disarms people. Like, when you hold things at this pedestal, it makes it feel scarier. And yes, like, I understand that this is something we want to be very intentional about, technology, but like, at the end of the day, if you're not using hand over hand, if you're not forcing a child to use a device, if you're not causing trauma, because there can be trauma with AAC, if you're being respectful of their autonomy and who they are and like doing it in that type of way, you're not, going to be causing harm by like trying one app that doesn't work and trying another. And so where you could be causing harm is if you have their insurance pay for a device that like really isn't meant for them, and then they can't get a new device for 5 years because now their communication is limited. So I do understand that, but it's also with the caregiver too. Like, when I present a device, I try to present it in a very like disarming way of like, this is something that can be really helpful in learning language, can be another way for them to communicate. They can see it, they can look at the words if they want to, they hear it over and over again so that you don't have to repeat yourself all the time, because I can't imagine. Can you imagine if you had to sit there and repeat this word over and over? Like, the device is going to have to do it for them anyways. So it's just a nice way for them to hear it over and over. It's, we can have them look at it. There's different apps, and really it's just whatever works for them. And we're just going to play around with it and kind of see what they're comfortable with. Like, I want you to be open about, don't make it like nonchalant, but that's scary. The caregiver's already coming to see you. Their child's already not communicating. Now you're like, they need this other thing, and they're gonna look different. And I had I have a little girl I see, and I love her so much, and she's brilliant. Like, her ability to communicate with, especially when she had way less words, was amazing. And she doesn't love using her device. She's been so much better. Like, she'll be telling a story. I can't quite understand everything she's saying. We have like some motor planning. There were seizures and some neurologic stuff going on. And she's gotten so good at being like, I'll show you. And then she'll find one word that like completely like explains everything of her whole story. And mom said the other day, we were talking about her device for school. I'm like, how do we talk to the teacher about her device at school so she doesn't feel bad? Because mom said that last school year, she came home from school and on her device it said lonely and was asking for friends. And, I said to her, I was like, if you want me to go and talk to the teacher in the classroom and just be like, hey, this is how you explain it to the class. She has her device. This helps her talk sometimes. Just like Billy has his glasses, that helps him see. No problem. End of story.
Discussion.
Done. We're fine. Like, end
Yeah.
of discussion, whatever. It's not that, like, we don't have to make it, like, talk about it. Don't pretend like
Yes.
it's not there. Have the conversation. When we have kids at the clinic. Hey, like, what's that? Oh, that's how she talks sometimes. You know how you like say all your words sometimes? She doesn't say all her words. She says it on the device. Isn't that really cool? And just like having those conversations, yes, we know we're experienced. We want to be very intentional about how we use it. We want to make sure we have all the right vocabulary, but like we have to stop making it this like huge thing that only certain speech pathologists know what to do, because that's just like not the case.
This should be a natural continuum. When we're truly engaged in a total communication approach, it's just a pair of glasses. That's
Or
the
just like
perfect
a
analogy.
text message you send. When you send a text message after somebody calls you and you don't want to answer the phone, that's AAC. Literally. So,
Yep. Yep. Oh, dear God, yes. Okay. So let's say we got all the way to the point that you have written your eval, you've submitted it, the trial device has gone back to the company, and now the kid who had successful communication on a trial device does not have a device because you're in the dreaded barren wasteland that happens in between.
some companies will let you keep the trial.
Yes, that option A. Some companies will let you keep the trial pending approval. Option B, for one of the kids that I'm in the process of writing the report on, they saved the profile and have emailed me the PDF so that I can print, laminate, and we can turn it into a book, which is really cool. Some companies, we don't have that as an option, and I may or may not have resorted to scanning pages on the computer and printing them because the kid needs to be able to communicate via a low-tech option. But also, AAC Language Lab, PRC Sotillo's AAC Language Lab has a ton of low-tech boards. And I do love that they have like a Halloween board. I know it's July, but I am a fall girl and I am prepped. We've been planning Halloween costumes for like 2 months already, which Halloween 5Ks we're going to run, whatever. Not the moral of the story here. But they even have specialty holiday events low-tech boards to pop up and have accessible. The very first time you go from beginning to end for this process, it's overwhelming and terrifying.
Mm-hmm. We're not discounting that. I don't want anyone to feel like we're saying that this isn't like scary and overwhelming.
It is. Yes, exactly. It's completely scary and overwhelming because I remember, goodness gracious, I still think I'm going to screw this whole thing up. Like, how am I going to fail? But here's the catch. All of these companies now have CCC-SLPs in there to help guide your clinical decision making, and it's free. There are great mentors out there, like Erin said, that like work at the universities, that work at the state lending library.
We've had a lot of them on the pod. We've had a lot of people on the podcast that like specialize in AAC and like do the research.
Yes. And what's really cool is when you meet an individual of that skill set and they just pour endlessly out into the to the world because they want to share of their skills in a way that it benefits everybody. So find those people. Look at your multiple resources. ASHA has decision-making tree website tools. The AAC companies have resources there. So the resources exist. Now, I will give you one word of pause before I lose a digit. God, she's teething so bad where they said she would teeth for another couple months. I'm about to lose a finger. But when you're looking at your AAC report, you want to make sure, because it's going to ask specific questions on the communicative intent and purposes that they use, the length of utterances that they used, was, how did they access it? Was it direct access? Was it eye gaze? Those kind of things. But also they're going to ask questions about literacy, cognition, and vision. And you need to have honest answers for that. And if you don't have the answer, make sure that you're communicating with the caregiver and the physician, because the physicians have to write their own letter of medical necessities, and you want to make sure everybody's on the same correct page. And sometimes private practice therapists don't have full access to the medical records, so there could be a diagnosis that you're not privy to. So you want to make sure that in moments like this, everything's copacetic.
Yeah. I was going to say something and then I think I lost it. But yeah, I think having that communication and making sure that you're collaborating will ensure that you're doing the best. And I will also say, do not rush the decision, because that's when you get yourself in trouble. And if you are working with someone who is giving you the impression that you're being rushed, just something that's happened to me recently where I've felt like things were pushy or rushed, and I specifically said, we haven't made a decision yet. I don't want my family to feel that they're making something out of fear or like they don't have enough time. And so telling families and preparing them, saying like, we're going to try something and it might not be the perfect, we're not going to find the perfect thing, but it might not be the right thing for them. We're going to work until we figure out what works for you and works for them, and kind of set that precedent can be also really helpful from the beginning too. Like, we're going to problem solve together and we'll figure it out. But don't feel like you're a bad therapist if like you try an app and it doesn't work, or the family says, I didn't really like this. Like, you're not, it's trial and error.
Yes, as such it should be. And okay, so I just listed off 3 of the companies that I use because they're in my region, right? Yeah. But there's so many other companies out there. It's just that those are
we're not sponsored by any of them.
Yeah, they're not. I'm not making any money off of them. I mean, good Lord, no. Also, bless, I would not want that job. Bless, but that's a lot of stress. So for those of you that have mentored me and worked for those companies and made all like the suggested edits and trainings, thank you. But you'll have to find who's available in your area.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's hard because there's unfortunately often high turnover rate, or at least that's what I've seen. But there's other ones that are available in South Carolina. I know there was AbleNet, but AbleNet I didn't do trials through them. They were like, you could apply and get like like only an iPad with one device. I think it's evolved since then, but I'm not privy to what's happening now. But like, yeah, but also eye gaze, and Jen Rubenstein's been on the podcast previously, and that's like a nationwide. They're the original company to do a single. Oh, that was a single eye, which is great for like spinal muscular atrophy and for individuals with like ALS or if you've had a horrible accident and only have one working eye, incidents like that. But yeah, but guys, we can all do this. And I truly think that we can all do this. Yeah.
Agreed.
I'm so glad we did this as the episode for tonight. Thank you.
Yeah. There's so much more. I mean, we'll be better about recording and we have much more to talk about, but this was more of a like, I feel like everything else on AAC is like, here's what to do, here's the specific thing to do, or here's a new thing we're learning about it. But like, we also just wanted to be like, do it.
Yes.
Just do it.
Do it.
As Nike would say.
Goose is reading a book and informed me that Nike was originally like a warrior goddess. And the Greek goddess of victory. That's the origin of Nike.
Okay.
I didn't know that was the Greek goddess of victory. So now we all know. Thank you, Goose. So you guys go Nike the situation and everybody wins AAC. And your own waffles.
Thanks, y'all. We'll see you soon.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.